So you have this project that you want to do, but you just feel like you don't have enough time. In this episode, we're going to help you find that time and get you going. What's up, friends? Welcome to The Beautiful Mess, where we talk about tools and tactics to improve your life. I'm your host, Paul Dittus, a creative director, and I'm super excited to have you on this episode. If you've ever felt like you wanted to do something in life, but you're just hesitant to get started, this episode is for you because I've been in your shoes many times. This episode, is actually an example of that because I had something else planned for today. I was not planning to record an episode today. However, things changed. I had an important meeting. It was going to be the highlight of my day, and it got canceled on me last minute. I emailed the person and I got a responder that they were not going to make it. So this is part of life, is rolling with the punches. And if I ever go about making a, thing for managing your time, this is one of the principles that I would recommend having, is being flexible, rolling with the punches, because life is very unpredictable and you just have to be ready for when opportunity knocks, and then also for when things don't quite go the way that you're planning them. But that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It all depends how you react to it. So, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is this quote from Tim Farriss. If you're not familiar with Tim Farriss, he's a popular entrepreneur. He wrote the book, The 4-Hour Workweek. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. I'm currently just skimming through it. Haven't had a chance to sit down and really read it yet. So that might be one of the books I share with you. So stay tuned for that. But basically, he said, this question that he likes to ask, am I inventing things to do to avoid the important? And so I set a reminder for myself to ask myself, am I inventing things to do to avoid the important? And I think all of us have that tendency, is when you have, free time or just like a gap time, you end up filling it with things that might not be as important as, things that have been on your to-do list for a while, but you've just been avoiding them because, one, you just don't know where to start. It's daunting. Perhaps you have something on your list that you've always wanted to do and just never started. So this is all about that. We're going to be talking about that. But I think that's an important question to ask yourself, is, am I inventing things to do to avoid the important? Because I think that's often a default that we do. If we end up going to social media, we end up tuning into YouTube and, avoiding what's important. The other important thing that I want to share with you is the Parkinson's law. Some of you might be familiar with it, but basically it's the idea that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So if you have something that you need to do, and let's say your end of your days, when you go drive home from work, and you realize, I have all this time to complete it, you're going to probably take all of that time to complete it. You're not going to just, Nike get it done in like 30 minutes, even though that it probably could be done in 30 minutes. So this is where this idea that I've been trying to experiment with, and I believe there's a book about like what is called sprints, and I'll have to maybe add that to my reading list. However, I tried this out on my guinea pigs, my kids actually. So chore time, I'm sure if you have kids or if you don't have kids, chore time is always a challenge. But chore time, it usually takes a while to get going. And so I decided I was going to put a restriction. I was going to say, hey, we're going to try to clean this room. There's toys strewn across the floor. It was really bad. I'm telling you, you can walk just a little bit and maybe hit another toy. But I said, hey, We're going to set the clock for 5 minutes. This is a super five. And we're going to go super intense. We're not going to stop. We're just going to keep going. It kind of reminded me of CrossFit. You're trying to be super intensive for a short period of time. And so I was like, hey, let's try it. And so we did. We were super intense for 5 whole minutes. And I was impressed. We got that room done in 2.5 minutes. I looked at the clock and I was like, oh, hey, we got time for the other room. So we ran across the other side and we basically cleaned 2 rooms completely in 5 minutes. Like, there's maybe just a little bit left to sweep up, or, finish up. But like this was one of my pet peeves that I've always had, is like, once the kids go to bed, like I would clean up for maybe like a half hour. But with the intensity, we were able to knock that out in 5 minutes. So what is it in your life that you're spending a half hour, maybe you're spending a whole day on, that could be done in 5 minutes? Maybe it's 15, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, depending on what you're doing. But I bet you that you could do it in less time. So my challenge to you is, next time you've got a task that you have to complete, or one that you're hoping to start, is set a time limit. Another thing that I did recently was I brainstormed video ideas. I've been taking Matt Diavella's YouTube masterclass, something like that, and it's great. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating was he set a time limit for brainstorming ideas. And, obviously being a content creator, you have to be on your toes, keeping a list of things to create. And this was 10 minutes of just focused, just writing down as many ideas as you could. You weren't worried, is this a good idea, bad idea? You're just like, hey, I'm just going to write down as many as I can. And then at the end of the time, I'm just going to pencils down, turn the test to your teacher kind of deal, And so you have that 10 minutes, you write down as many as you can. And then, you write them down on your whatever place that you keep your content database. And so like maybe the whole process takes 30 minutes. But for many people, this process could take like a whole day. It's like, oh, I got to plan out my next quarter's worth of video ideas. So I'm going to spend like, the whole day on this. And you would likely spend a whole day, maybe more, just doing that one thing that you could have knocked out in a half hour. So just remember the Parkinson's law and adjust accordingly if that's something that you're dealing with. So, the other thing is, like, we often get derailed when something's overcomplicated. So I try to make things as easy as possible to get started. This podcast, we're on episode 40, but I've tried to make just getting going, like recording, writing out ideas, as simple as possible, so I don't have to think about it. It's kind of routine. I can get started on it right away. So that's something that you want to consider if there's something that you do on a regular basis. And to be honest, if you want to improve in a certain area, you should be doing something on a regular basis. You should make it a routine. Like every week, I know I'm aiming to publish this podcast on Thursdays. Like that's my thing. I record it, produce it, and then it comes out on Thursdays. So what routines can you make to do what you want to accomplish? So like just Nike. So here we are. Perhaps you've got a daunting task. So I'm going to give you some recommendations on how to get started on a daunting task. I know it can be super intimidating just getting started on a project that you might not know where to start. Or maybe you want to start exercising and you've never done it before. So I think if you apply one of these elements, you should have a good place to start your progress in that area. So number one, change your environment. If you're looking to get something done, don't just bang your head against the computer in your office. Maybe you need a fresh environment. Maybe you have to go down to the coffee shop, to the library, to a quiet space, you name it. But changing your environment, especially if you want to create a new routine with that environment. So like every time I sit down, I'm going to start writing in this new environment. That's a great routine. And so think about that. Think about the computer environment. Maybe if you're writing, just make it stupid simple. Say, hey, like I'm just going to use this one app. I'm going to write in it. And then once I'm done, good, done. 5 minutes, 10 minutes writing. Just, doesn't have to be long. Long doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means that you spend a lot of time on it. Long, applying yourself multiple times over a long period of time, that will reap rewards. However, there is kind of that law of diminishing return. So like, for example, if you're practicing piano for like, let's say 6 hours a day, you might only be productive practicing for 3. So just because you're adding hours doesn't mean that you're actually becoming better because of that. So you really need to think about how you're applying yourself in those areas. The next thing is probably one of my favorite things to do is create limitations. And this is kind of counterintuitive, but don't give yourself all the options in the world. You sometimes have to limit yourself. And this is one of the laws of creativity is often when you limit yourself, you become more creative. And so how can you apply this? You can create time limits. You do your own super 5, where you just like super intense for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that time frame you want to be is like, you just set down, you're laser focused on whatever it is. You make a tool limit. Like I was saying, you might just use one application and then maybe you just turn off Wi-Fi while you're working so that put your, that you're not going to get distracted. You put your phone in do not disturb mode, whatever you need to do so that you can get that done without being pulled in 50 different directions. Okay. And then another thing is that maybe it's price. Maybe you're looking to buy something and you're just like, this is a good option. This is a good option. I don't know where to go. And maybe you set parameters like price is most important. So nothing above this gets considered. So, just think about different limitations that you can set on a project that will help you move forward. And then this one's super important. Ask for advice, for like help from someone that's done it before. So if you're looking to maybe start a workout routine, maybe you go to a gym because they obviously know how to work out and where to get you started. If you have a personal trainer, they're going to help you get that fitness routine down. So that can help you get started. So along with that, maybe they give you a list of steps that you need to take. And so you can write them down. And then what I want you to do is to make the first step stupid, simple. Like don't make it overcomplicated. Like basically it should be, something that you can do in 2 minutes or less so that like you just get that initial like rush of like, hey, I'm in the project. I'm not outside of it now. And then like also define what done looks like. Write it out so that once you hit these parameters, you can, ship the project. If it's, maybe a podcast or a blog post or whatever you're creating or doing, once you've reached your goal, instead of just having this open-ended, like, I need to perfect this. I need to edit this until Shakespeare rolls in his grave and is happy. So think about those things. How can you basically simplify the process to start? And then you just have to start messy. Just embrace the messiness, as we talk about on this episode, podcast is the beautiful mess. So we're going to keep saying it again and again. I was listening to this talk, this podcast. I think the podcast is called Creative Elements with Jay Klaus. And he was interviewing interviewing Miss Excel. And Miss Excel talked about how she got started, and she hadn't really had much experience creating short content at all. And so she just decided she'd learn it. And she was like, okay, I'm not really sure how to do this, but I'm going to start messy. My first video might not be great, but hey, I'm just going to put it out there. And I mean, the rest is history. She's one of them. She's a very popular TikToker. And I think she's now has her whole business around Excel. She was doing it professionally, but now I think she quit her job and she's doing this content creation Excel thing full time. So you never know what your next project could lead to. Maybe you become the next Miss Excel and excel in other areas of your life. I couldn't resist that connection. So yeah, just remember Parkinson law, work expands to fill the time available. So give yourself restrictions so that you don't expand it beyond what is beneficial, so you can make progress. And then ask yourself the good old Tim Farriss quote, am I inventing things to do to avoid the important? So that's all for today. If you want to join the Messy fam, be sure to rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and all the other, pretty much all. If I'm missing one, feel free to let me know, but we're probably on most of the podcast platforms. And if you see a area to put a rating or a review, love to hear from you. So be sure to do that. And till next time, my friends, stay messy.